So we just had two songs, one maybe from the viewpoint of Joseph and the other from the viewpoint of Mary. The scripture I really want to focus on is verse 19. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. So what things are we talking about? It's not just the shepherds, because the scripture was talking about the shepherds. But it's more than just the shepherds. Mary was thinking over everything that had transpired in her life up to that moment. During our Advent time, we've been looking at the Advent wreath and focusing on the words associated with them: hope, peace, joy, and love. But we've also been talking about the Christmas tree, and if you remember the very first week, it looked a little peaked. All that was on it was a star. And Rex talked about how God came to us as a light, to shine in the darkness. And then Joe talked about the peace that came to us with the birth of Jesus, and how when we put the lights and wrap them around the tree, and we turn on that Christmas tree, and your lights are off in your whatever room you have the Christmas tree, it just illuminates it, and it's so peaceful, and you just want to sit in that room and take in the peace. And that's the peace that God brings to us. And last week was joy, and we were downtown for the children's Christmas program, and it was beautiful. It was very joyful. And we get to experience the joy of God with the shepherds. The shepherds went out in great joy and told everyone. And that's what we are to do as well. We are not to keep our joy for God to ourselves. We are to go out and share like the shepherds did. And today is love. We think of Mary and how much love she must have had for God to say yes. Remember, Mary was just a teeny bopper, maybe 12, 13, 14 years old, when she got asked to be the mother of Jesus. And to be in the state at 12 or 13, 14 years old, and to know what she's getting herself into, are you kidding me? I'm 55, and there's no way I would have a clue what's going on. There's no way she knew. But she said yes. And she had no idea what was going to happen next. What was it going to be like to tell Joseph? And her parents, can you imagine what the household was like when she had to tell mom and dad, oh, hey, by the way, I'm pregnant, and it's not Joseph's? What? And Joseph's house, what was that like? The tumultuousness, right? It wasn't peace. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what we might think, right? It was crazy. So here is Mary, and she's taking everything that's happened up to this point, right? And not only that, they find out they now have to make this journey to Bethlehem. And she's very pregnant, and going on a journey is not like going on a journey now, pack the car, pack the suitcases, and let's go. No, it was rugged, it was rough, and of course in all the beautiful nativity movie stories that we see, Mary and Joseph look beautiful and wonderful and fantastic and great clothes, and they have a donkey or a colt and they ride on it. It's all, ah. It probably was not, it was probably, okay? It was probably nightmarish. And then they get to Bethlehem. And remember, they're in Bethlehem because this is where King David was from. King David didn't live yesterday. This was hundreds of years before Joseph came along. So how many relatives does Joseph actually have in Bethlehem that they can stay with, that he knows, on a first-name basis? Knock, knock, knock. Hey, we're here. Can we stay with you? It's not like they could ring a ding-ding, pull up the phone and call and say, hey, we're going to be there in 2 days. Get the bed ready, right? There was probably no way to let anybody know that they were coming. And oh, by the way, I'm bringing my pregnant wife. What? And of course, we don't know exactly how long Mary and Joseph were there when Jesus was born. In all the nativity movies, it's like boom, boom, boom. Here we are. Now we are running around. Joseph's running around frantic, trying to find a place, right? We don't know if that's what really happened. Most likely not quite like that. But in the movies, they got to make it big, right? But what we know is it was something kind of like that because they got put in a barn. Have you thought about what that smelled like? I would not want any of my kids born in a barn. We might say they were born in the barn when they leave the door open, but they weren't literally born in a barn. They were born in the comfort and the cleanliness and the sanitariness of a hospital. Jesus was wrapped up and placed in a feed trough with animals and manure all over the place. Not perfect, not beautiful, not wow. And then these shepherds walk in. And Mary takes all of this and she treasures it. That was the word. She treasures it. I want you to think what that word means. She didn't see it as awful. She didn't see it as horrible. She didn't see it as, what in the world did I say? Yes. She sees it as, wow, look what God just did through me. Look what God just did. God just decorated my life. Mary wasn't just saying that for herself. She was saying that for all of us. Each and every one of us come into our lives in tumultuous times, crazy situations. Everything's not always hunky-dory, not perfect, not maybe like we had planned. But God comes to us and He wants us to think about all of those things in our life. And He wants us to think about them and think of them as a treasure. On our Christmas tree, we're missing the decorations. They're sitting on your table. But before we actually decorate the tree, I wanted to share with you some decorations that I have from my house. And so the first one I actually talked about last week when I spoke at the 8 o'clock service, and it says faith. And it's a set of 3 ornaments. One says hope, one says love, and then this one says faith. And the reason why I brought this one, because the memory that I have associated with this ornament, where I got it from a student, I think. It doesn't matter. What matters is the story behind this word. So Daniel was about 3 or 4 years old at the time that this takes place. And at that time, we had a ginormous, massive Christmas tree. It was huge. We do not have that big honking thing anymore. We now have a pencil tree. I can decorate it in 5 minutes or less, my kind of decorating. But the tree that we had back then was huge. And I loved these ornaments, hope, love, and faith. Daniel could read anything at the age of 3, so I did not have to tell him what his word was. He knew exactly what it was. And he went to put it on the tree, and when he did, it fell in to the tree. And the tree was so massive that it disappeared. It was gone. And he turned around with great big saucer 3-year-old eyes, and he said, "Mom, I just lost my little faith." I said, well, he was 3 at the time, so I said, why don't you crawl underneath? I would not say that to 18-year-old Daniel now because tree would be poof. But he crawled underneath the tree and he came up with the ornament and he said, "Mom, I just found my little faith." It captured me so much. He lost his faith, he got on his knees, and he found his faith. Every time I open my ornament box, these are one of the first ornaments that come out, and I remember that story. And this ornament is very special to me because of the words of a 3 or a 4-year-old. Then I have these ornaments, and I'm going to try and get through this without crying. It was Christmas Day, 2002. And my family had gotten together, and we always did a white elephant exchange. And my little sister owned a Christian bookstore at the time, and this was something that you could buy, these ornaments, and there's like 12 or 14 in the package, and they're hand-crocheted ornaments. And my mom had bought them for the white elephant exchange. And somebody got them and she stole them. Somebody else got them and she stole them. And somebody else got them and she stole them. And somebody else got them and she stole them. And somebody else got them and she stole them. She wanted them. Even though she had got them for the white elephant gift, we laughed so hard. Finally, we were all like, Mom, you want them? They're yours. So she got them. 7 days later, we lost my mom. She died on New Year's Day. No warning. She was gone. My little sister went to the Christian bookstore, and she got 2 more packages. So my sisters and I could have our own set. And every year, these are the first ornaments I put on our Christmas tree to remember the love of my mom and the joy of that Christmas day and the peace that descended upon us and the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. Christmas is not always a great thing for people. It holds many precious things, precious memories, hopes and dreams, wants and desires. Memories, special memories. So what I'm going to ask you is, you have ornaments in front of you, and if you don't, will you share with people who are around you who don't have their ornaments? If there's enough, I'd like everybody to have 4. So if you would gather those around you and kind of lay them out in front of you. I know Jan needs a couple over here. She doesn't have any. And I don't know if they all have hooks or not, and if they don't, we'll kind of figure it out. I know. I was like, I'm surprised I actually made that through. I don't know. Every time I practice, I was like, nope, I'm not going to make it. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. Okay, so you have 4 ornaments. 1 ornament is going to represent hope, 1 peace, 1 joy, and 1 love. I want you to take your ornament of hope and hold it in your hand. If you want to hold all 4, that's fine. But I want you to think of how God has decorated your life with hope. And it doesn't have to be this year. It could be at any point in your life. How has God decorated your life with hope? The second ornament is peace. How has God brought you peace? Once again, it doesn't have to be this year. It could be any time. Where has God shown you His peace? And your third ornament is joy. Where or how has God shown you joy? And the final one is love. God gifts you with His love, but sometimes we just don't feel very loved. So think of a time that God has just blown you away by His love. What we're going to do is I'm going to have a song played, and while that song is playing, when you're ready, I would like you to bring your ornaments up and hang them on the tree. And I know that hope and peace and joy and love may not be the top thing that you're thinking of this Christmas. But it doesn't have to be about this Christmas. It has to be about what God has decorated your life with. Because sometimes we get so focused on the tumultuous moments in our lives that we forget the blessings that God has given us in the past to help carry us through today. Joe? When you're ready, you